In the sprawling cat household of Gateshead Hall, nestled among cushions and sunlit windowsills, Jane Meowre, a scrawny grey kitten with wide, curious eyes, huddled alone. Orphaned young when her parents vanished chasing a storm, she'd been taken in by her Uncle Reed, a kindly Tom who'd promised her a home. But his death left her under the cold paws of Aunt Scratch Reed, a sleek tabby with a perpetual sneer and claws that gleamed like daggers. Mrs. Scratch Reed despised Jane's lack of pedigree. Her fur wasn't glossy like her cousins, nor did she boast their smug lineage. Her cousins were no kinder. John Meow Reed, a hulking orange Tom with a swaggering tail, ruled the litter with brute force, his amber eyes glinting with mischief. Eliza Purr, a slender black she-cat, watched the world with icy detachment, her purr reserved for calculations of gain. Georgiana Meow, a fluffy cream-coloured beauty, preened endlessly, her emerald eyes flicking to mirrors as she dreamt of rich Toms. One frosty afternoon, Jane curled up with Whiskers' history of feline friends, her paws tracing tales of brave cats when John pounced. "You've no right to our toys, Stray," he yelled, hurling a jingling toy mouse at her head. Jane hissed, swiping back, but her defiance earned her a swat from Mrs. Scratch Reed. To the red room, the tabby snarled, and Jane was dragged to a dusty attic nook, her fur prickling with dread of imagined spectres, ghost cats with glowing eyes. Locked in, Jane's small heart raced. She wasn't just a kitten, she was a prisoner, her spirit clawing for freedom amid the shadows. Mrs. Scratch Reed's cruelty stemmed from envy. Jane's uncle had favoured her, a slight the tabby never forgave. John's bullying hid his insecurity, a Tom too lazy to earn his own pride. Eliza's aloofness masked a calculating mind, while Georgiana's vanity veiled a shallow soul. Jane, though, burned with quiet resilience, her whiskers trembling but unbowed. Weeks later, Mrs. Scratch Reed, tired of Jane's defiance, shipped her off to Lowood School, a drafty den for stray and orphaned kittens. The head Tom, Mr. Hisclarehurst, a mangy black cat with a raspy growl, preached charity while hoarding the best kibble for himself. His fur was patchy from stress, his eyes narrowed with hypocrisy as he lectured the kittens on humility, his tail lashing like a whip. Jane arrived shivering, her paws raw from the journey, and found a world of thin mats and watery milk. Yet amid the hardship, she met Helen Purrs, a soft calico with a gentle meow and a coat dappled like autumn leaves. Helen's eyes held a quiet wisdom, her purr balm to Jane's wounds. "Patience heals all scratches," she'd say, even as Mr. Hisclarehurst's rules starved them. Helen's faith in a kinder world softened Jane's edges, teaching her to endure. But a cat disease, whisker rot, they called it, swept through, and Helen's frail frame couldn't fight it. One night, Jane curled beside her friend, feeling Helen's last purr fade, leaving a void in her chest. Miss Temper, the head mistress, a plump tortoiseshell with a warm gaze, offered solace. Her name suited her. She was a cushion of comfort in Lowood's harshness, sneaking extra treats to the kittens and softening Mr. Hisclarehurst's decrees. Under her care, Jane grew into a sleek young cat, her grey fur gaining a subtle sheen, her mind sharp from teaching the younger ones to pounce and play. Mr. Hisclarehurst, meanwhile, grew fatter, his greed a stain on Lowood's legacy, though he never noticed Jane's quiet strength blossoming. At 18, Jane's paws itched for freedom. She scratched an ad into a tree governess seeks position, and soon arrived at Thornfield Hall, a sprawling estate of velvet cushions and sun-drenched nooks. Its master, Mr. Purchester, was a broad-shouldered tabby with ruffled fur and a growl that masked a velvet purr. His amber eyes held a storm of secrets, his tail flicking with restless energy. He'd roamed the wilds as a young Tom, returning with a Meowre cat, a sprightly kitten with a French lilt to her mew, claiming her as his ward, though whispers hinted at more. Jane's days filled with teaching a Meow to leap and chase feathers, her patience smoothing the kitten's wild streak. Mr. Purchester watched, his gruff exterior softening as Jane's wit matched his own. Nights brought eerie yowls from the attic, where Grace Purr Alley, a wiry tabby with a guarded stare, prowled. Jane's whiskers twitched. Something was amiss. One stormy evening, she scented smoke and clawed open Mr. Purchester's door to find his cushions ablaze. With a swift paw, she tipped a water bowl over the flames, saving him. He purred gratitude, his gaze lingering, and Jane felt her fur warm with something new. Their bond grew, Mr. Purchester sharing tales of his roguish youth chasing birds across continents, dodging traps. His charm was a tangled yarn, his brooding a mask for a heart scarred by past choices. A Meow, a whirlwind of energy, adored Jane. Her kittenish glee a contrast to Grace Purr's silent watchfulness, hinting at secrets she guarded with fierce loyalty. Mr. Purchester's purr deepened into a proposal. "Jane Meowre, be my mate," he rumbled, his tail curling around hers. Her heart leapt yes, she'd share his den. The mating ceremony began. Thornfield's cats gathered, when a feral yowl split the air. Bertha Meowson, a wild-eyed she-cat with matted fur under crazed hiss, burst forth. Mr. Purchester's first wife, locked away for her madness. Grace Purr had been her keeper, but the truth clawed free. Bertha's mind had snapped years ago, astray turned feral by grief, and Mr. Purchester couldn't abandon her. Jane's tail drooped, her dream shredded. Mr. Purchester's eyes pleaded, but she couldn't stay on. It demanded she flee. Paws pounding, she raced into the night, her fur soaked by rain, until exhaustion left her yowling on a moor. Bertha's madness was a tragic echo of a life untamed. Mr. Purchester's secrecy a wound he'd hidden too long, half-browned. Jane was rescued by St. John Meowre, a lean white tom with icy blue eyes and a cleric's stern meow. His sisters, Diana and Mary for Ivers, plump tabbies with warm purrs, nursed Jane back to health in their cozy den, Moor House. St. John's piety was rigid, his tail stiff with duty. He dreamt of missionary work in India, converting alley cats to his faith. Diana's laughter and Mary's quiet kindness softened his edges, and Jane found kinship with them, her grey fur regaining its luster. St. John saw Jane's strength and proposed mating, his logic cold. "You'd serve my mission well." But Jane's heart hissed no, his love was a leash, not a bond. Then fate purred a surprise. A fat cat lawyer revealed Jane's uncle, a trader Tom, had left her a fortune in kibble and coin. She shared it with her fur Ivers cousins, their joy a chorus of purrs. But her thoughts strayed to Thornfield. St. John's resolve hardened, he'd go to India alone, his destiny a solitary path. Jane's paws led her back to Thornfield, now a charred husk. Bertha Meowson had torched it in a final frenzy, leaping to her death, her wild spirit extinguished. Mr. Purchester, blinded and lame, his once proud tail drooping, hid in a quiet den nearby. His fur was singed, his amber eyes clouded, but Jane's meow found him. "I'm here," she purred, pressing her flank to his. He'd lost everything yet gained her. She forgave his secrets, her love a steady scratch behind his ears. They mated in a simple ceremony, their den a haven of cushions and trust. Bertha's end freed them, her tragedy a shadow that faded. Grace Purr slunk away, her duty done, while A.D. Meow grew into a spirited young cat under their care. Years passed, and Jane bore Mr. Purchester a litter of kittens, their tiny mews filling the air. His sight returned, a glimmer in his amber eyes as he watched them pounce. Mrs. Scratch-Reed had died, her sour stomach her undoing, unrepentant to the end. John Meowre drowned in catnip, his excess his ruin. Eliza Purr joined a feline convent, her solitude a choice. Georgiana Meowre a fluffy dandy, her beauty her currency. St. John Meowre sent a final letter from India, his mission complete before death claimed him, his faith his legacy. Diana and Mary for Ivers thrived, their dens rich with Jane's gift. Jane Meowre, once a lonely kitten, now purred beside Mr. Purchester, their family a tapestry of resilience and love. Her tail of scratch against fate proved that even the smallest cat could find a sunlit perch, whiskers high and heart full.